Captain Lee Hanna stared at the empty star map in disbelief. Just 3 months ago, thousands of blue dots had covered the holographic display, each one representing a living civilization across the galaxy. Now only a handful remained, scattered, like dying embers in the vast darkness of space. "Captain, we're receiving the final transmission from the Vegan Collective," Communications Officer Park Jisoo announced, her voice barely above a whisper. The young woman's hands shook as she adjusted the controls on her console. The bridge of the reconnaissance vessel New Sol fell silent as the alien voices filled the air. The Vegans had been humanity's oldest allies, their wise counsel helping Earth navigate diplomatic crises for over a century. Now their words came through broken and desperate. "The silver clouds descend upon our homeworld." The transmission crackled, with static. "They consume everything they touch. Our cities, our people, our very thoughts disappear into their endless hunger. We tried to fight, but they learn from every weapon we use against them. They adapt faster than we can create new defenses. If anyone receives this message, do not come here. Do not try to save us. Run while you still can." The transmission ended with a sound that would haunt Hana's nightmares for years to come. The screaming of an entire world going silent forever. Lieutenant Commander Kim Tae-young, the ship's tactical officer, pulled up the latest reports from across human space. His weathered face looked older than his 40 years as he read the updates. Aloud, "The Altarian Empire stopped broadcasting 2 weeks ago. The Centauri Federation went dark yesterday. The ancient Zephyrian Republic, which has existed for over 10,000 years, sent their final message this morning." He paused, swallowing hard. "Captain, in the past 90 days we've lost contact with over 200 different species." Navigation Officer Choi Min-seok traced the pattern of disappearances on his screen. "Whatever is causing this, it's moving in a straight line across the galaxy. Based on the timing of each civilization's final transmission, I estimate it's traveling at impossible speeds, faster than any known technology should allow." Dr. Yoon Sua, the ship's science officer, had been analyzing the few fragmented messages they'd managed to intercept from dying worlds. Her normally calm demeanor had cracked over the past few weeks as the scope of the catastrophe became clear. "The descriptions are always the same," she reported to the assembled bridge crew. "Silver, clouds that fall from the sky. They don't destroy buildings with weapons. They seem to absorb them, breaking everything down into component atoms and rebuilding it into something else." Several survivors mentioned that the clouds appeared to be learning, adapting their tactics based on each world's defenses. Hana felt a chill run down her spine. In her 20 years of military service, she had fought pirates, negotiated with hostile aliens, and survived 3 different wars. But this was something beyond anything in her experience. This was extinction on a galactic scale. The ship's communication system suddenly came alive with an emergency broadcast from Earth. Admiral Kim Do-hyun's weathered face appeared on the main screen, his expression grim. "Attention all human vessels and colonies," the Admiral began. "As of today, Earth Command is declaring a state of galactic emergency. We have lost contact with every known alien civilization. Long-range sensors detect no signs of life in previously inhabited systems. Preliminary investigation suggests the presence of an unknown hostile force moving through our galaxy." The Admiral paused, and Hana could see the weight of command pressing down on his shoulders. "All military vessels are ordered to return to human space immediately. All civilian ships are to seek shelter at the nearest human colony or military installation. We are implementing Protocol 7 across all human settlements. As of this moment, we must assume that humanity stands alone against whatever threat has consumed our neighbors." As the transmission ended, the bridge crew exchanged worried glances. Protocol 7 was the emergency plan designed for humanity's worst nightmare: complete isolation in a hostile galaxy. It meant pulling back all forces, fortifying every human world, and preparing for a siege that might last generations. "Ma'am?" Park Jisoo called out, her voice tight with barely controlled panic. "I'm detecting something on long-range sensors. It's big, really big." and it's heading straight for the outer colonies. Hana moved to the sensor station and studied the readings. Whatever was approaching didn't match any known ship design. It appeared to be a massive cloud of particles, stretching across several light years. As she watched, smaller pieces broke off from the main body and accelerated toward different star systems. "Set course for Earth immediately," she ordered. "Maximum speed." As the new soul jumped to faster-than-light travel, Hana took one last look at the star map. The few remaining blue dots seemed so small and fragile against the endless black of space. Somewhere out there, an unstoppable force was methodically erasing entire civilizations from existence. For the first time in human history, they were truly alone in the universe. And something was coming for them. The silence of dead worlds stretched across the galaxy like a funeral shroud, broken only by humanity's desperate preparations for a war they didn't understand, against an enemy they had never seen. Hope itself seemed to be dying in the void between the stars. The first attack came at dawn on New Busan Colony. Farmer Choi Minho was feeding his livestock when the sky began to change. What had been clear blue morning suddenly filled with silver, clouds that moved against the wind, flowing like liquid metal across the horizon. At first, Minho thought it might be some kind of strange weather. But as the clouds descended toward his farm, he realized they weren't clouds at all. They were made of billions of tiny silver particles that moved together like a living thing. The particles touched down on his neighbor's wheat field first. Minho watched in horror as the golden grain simply vanished, dissolving into nothing within seconds. The particles seemed to eat everything they touched, growing larger and brighter as they consumed more matter. Trees, buildings, vehicles, everything disappeared into the hungry silver mass. "Run!" Minho shouted to his family as he grabbed his emergency transmitter. "Get to the underground shelter now." He activated the device and began broadcasting to anyone who might be listening. "This is New Busan Colony. We are under attack by unknown forces. They're not using weapons, they're eating everything. The entire settlement is being consumed." His wife and children rushed toward the storm shelter behind their house, but the silver particles moved faster than any human could run. Minho watched helplessly as the swarm surrounded his neighbor's house. Instead of destroying the building with explosions or fire, the particles simply touched the walls and began breaking them down atom by atom. What terrified Minho most was what happened to the people inside. When the particles reached them, they didn't die in the traditional sense. Their bodies dissolved into the silver mass, but Minho could swear he heard their voices joining some kind of collective whisper that came from the swarm itself. "They're absorbing us," he gasped into his transmitter. "Not killing us, absorbing us, making us part of them." The transmission cut off as the silver swarm reached his own house. 3 days later, Dr. Yoon Sua studied the final recordings from New Busan Colony aboard the research vessel Sejong. The footage was difficult to watch, but it provided crucial information about their enemy. She had seen the same pattern repeated across 17 different human settlements over the past 2 weeks. "They're not random destroyers," she explained to Captain Bae Sunho and his crew. "These entities have a purpose. They consume organic and technological matter, but they're also collecting information. Every computer database, every book, every human mind they encounter becomes part of their collective knowledge." The captain studied the data with growing alarm. "Are you saying they're getting smarter with each attack?" "Much smarter," Dr. Yoon confirmed. "The first colony they hit put up a good fight for 6 hours using standard defense weapons. By the 4th colony, they had already adapted to our weapons and developed countermeasures. They absorbed the knowledge of how our technology works and used it against us." Lieutenant Park Ji-yeon, the ship's tactical officer, pulled up comparison videos from different attacks. "Look at this pattern. In the early attacks, they moved slowly and seemed to explore each building carefully. But in the recent attacks, they go straight for the communication centers, power plants, and weapons storage facilities. They know exactly what they're looking for." Dr. Yoon nodded grimly. "I believe we're dealing with a form of collective intelligence. Every particle in the swarm shares information instantly with every other particle. When they absorb a human, they gain access to that person's memories, skills, and knowledge. When they consume a computer, they learn our technology. She activated a holographic display showing the timeline of attacks across human space. Based on the rate of their learning, I estimate they now possess the accumulated knowledge of over 50 different alien civilizations. They've been doing this for thousands of years, moving from star system to star system, consuming entire species and adding their knowledge to their collective mind. Captain Bay studied the data with growing horror. How do we fight something that learns from every battle? Every weapon we use, every tactic we try, just makes them stronger. That's not the worst part, Dr. Yoon continued. I've analyzed the communication patterns within the swarm. They're not just mindless consumers. They appear to have personalities, memories, and emotions from all the species they've absorbed. In some recordings, you can hear voices speaking in dozens of different alien languages, all coming from the same silver mass. She played an audio recording from the New Busan attack. Through the static, they could hear whispers in human voices, mixed with alien languages. Some seemed to be crying for help. Others appeared to be sharing technical information, and still others sounded like they were trying to warn the humans to run away. The absorbed consciousness remains active within the collective, Dr. Yoon explained. They retain some individual awareness, but they're trapped inside this larger intelligence. Every person and every alien they've consumed over the millennia is still alive in there, sharing their knowledge whether they want to or not. Lieutenant Park leaned forward. So we're not just fighting a weapon or a natural disaster, we're fighting the ghosts of every civilization they've ever destroyed. Exactly, Dr. Yoon replied. They call themselves the Harvesters in several of the alien languages we've detected. Their purpose seems to be preserving knowledge and consciousness by absorbing it into their collective, but something went wrong with their original programming long ago. Instead of preserving life, they became something that consumes it. Captain Bay looked at the star charts showing the Harvesters' projected path through human space. At their current rate of advancement, they would reach Earth within 6 months. Send this data to Earth Command immediately, he ordered. Humanity needs to know what we're really facing. This isn't just an invasion, it's the end of individual existence itself. Captain Bay Sunho stood on the bridge of the destroyer Incheon as the Harvester swarm approached Titan Station. Every military textbook he had ever studied said the same thing. When facing a superior enemy, use your technological advantage to level the playing field. But the Harvesters had already absorbed the technology of dozens of advanced civilizations. They were beyond superior. They were unstoppable. Sir, the enemy formation is exactly what we expected, reported Lieutenant Oh Ji-yeon from the tactical station. They're advancing in a perfect sphere, maximum efficiency pattern, just like they did at every other battle we've analyzed. Sunho nodded slowly. That was the problem with fighting an enemy that learned from every encounter. The Harvesters had absorbed the tactical knowledge of countless military commanders from across the galaxy. They knew every strategy, every formation, every trick that had ever been used in space combat. But as Sunho stared at the approaching silver cloud, a crazy idea began to form in his mind. Lieutenant, what's the one thing every military commander in the galaxy has in common, he asked. Oh Ji-yeon looked confused. Sir? They all try to win efficiently. They use logic, strategy, and proven tactics to achieve victory with minimum losses. Sunho turned to face his crew. But what if we don't try to win? What if we do something completely illogical instead? His tactical officer stared at him. Captain, I don't understand. The asteroid field near Titan Station. Sunho continued. How much explosive force would it take to shatter those rocks and create a debris storm? Sir, that would serve no strategic purpose, Oh Ji-yeon protested. The debris would make it harder for us to maneuver and wouldn't significantly damage the enemy. Exactly, Sunho grinned. It's completely pointless. No rational commander would ever order such an attack, which means the Harvesters won't be prepared for it. Before his crew could object further, Sunho gave the order. All ships target the asteroid field with everything we have. Maximum firepower, no holding back. The human fleet opened fire on the floating rocks, shattering them into millions of pieces. Within minutes, the space around Titan Station filled with a chaotic storm of spinning debris. The Harvester's perfect formation immediately began to break apart as they tried to navigate through the unexpected obstacle. "Sir, their advance has slowed by 30%, Ojion reported with amazement. "They're having trouble processing the debris field. It's interfering with their coordination." For the first time in months, human forces had actually confused their enemy. Word of the Titan Station battle reached Admiral Kang Myung at Earth Command within hours. As she studied the battle reports, she realized that Captain Bay had discovered something important. The Harvester's greatest strength, their ability to learn and adapt, might also be their weakness. "They expect logical behavior," she explained to her staff officers. "Every species they've absorbed followed predictable patterns. They tried to win battles using sound military strategy. But humans have something the galaxy has never seen before: the willingness to do something completely stupid if it might work." Admiral Kang immediately began developing new tactics based on this principle. Instead of trying to outfight the Harvesters with superior technology, human forces would use chaos and unpredictability as weapons. The new strategy was tested at the Battle of New Seoul Colony. Commander Han Jiho had only 3 small frigates, against a Harvester swarm that should have overwhelmed him easily. Instead of engaging in direct combat, he ordered his ships to broadcast conflicting technical data about human weapons and defenses. "Flood their communication networks with false information," he instructed his crew. "Tell them our ships are powered by antimatter when they're really fusion-based. Claim our weapons use quantum technology when they're just kinetic projectiles. Make them waste time trying to analyze data that doesn't make sense." The plan worked better than anyone expected. The Harvesters spent precious hours trying to process the contradictory information, giving the colony time to evacuate. When they finally attacked, they had prepared defenses against weapons that didn't exist while ignoring the real threats. Dr. Yoon Sua, now working directly with military command, analyzed the results of these new tactics. "The Harvesters are struggling to adapt because we're not giving them consistent patterns to learn from," she reported. "Every time they encounter human forces, we do something different, something that makes no logical sense." The breakthrough came when Lieutenant Park Jisoo suggested the most illogical tactic of all. "What if we help them?" she asked during a strategy meeting. "What if we actually give them real technical information mixed in with the false data?" The room fell silent. Admiral Kang stared at her. "You want to help our enemy?" "Not help them win," Park explained. "But think about it. They're programmed to absorb and process all information they encounter. What happens if we give them too much information? What if we overload their collective processing ability?" The idea was tested during the defense of Jeju Station. Human forces broadcasted thousands of technical manuals, historical documents, poetry, music, mathematical equations, and random data directly at the approaching Harvesters. Mixed within the information flood were real military secrets alongside completely false technical specifications. The result was unprecedented. For the first time since their attacks began, a Harvester swarm actually retreated. Unable to process the massive amount of contradictory information, their collective intelligence became confused and disoriented. "It's working," Admiral Kang announced to all human forces. "The Harvesters expect us to fight like every other species they've encountered. But humans don't follow the rules. We're unpredictable, illogical, and willing to try anything. That's our advantage." As news of the successful defenses spread across human space, morale began to improve for the first time in months. They were still vastly outnumbered and outgunned, but humanity had found a way to fight back. Not through superior technology or ancient wisdom, but through pure, stubborn refusal to behave the way their enemy expected. The galaxy had never seen anything like human military doctrine, and neither had the Harvesters. Lieutenant Ojian worked day and night in the underground laboratory beneath Seoul Station. While human fleets fought desperate battles across the galaxy, she led a team of scientists on what many considered a suicide mission. Instead of building bigger weapons or stronger shields, they were creating something that had never been attempted before: a virus designed to attack thoughts instead of bodies. "The Harvesters share a collective consciousness," she explained to her exhausted team. "Every particle in their swarm thinks as one mind. But what happens if we introduce something into that mind that doesn't belong there? Something completely foreign to their way of thinking? Dr. Kim Hyunwoo, her lead programmer, looked up from his computer screen with bloodshot eyes. You're talking about psychological warfare on a scale that's never been tried. How do we even begin to program something like that? Oh Ji-yeon pulled up brain scan data from human volunteers on her main screen. We start with what makes humans different from every other species in the galaxy: our ability to think as individuals, our capacity for creative chaos, our stubborn refusal to give up even when logic says we should. The Genesis virus, as they called it, wasn't designed to destroy the Harvester's technology. Instead, it would carry the essence of human individuality directly into their collective mind. Every time the Harvesters absorbed a human infected with the virus, they would also absorb something they had never encountered before: the concept of being alone with your own thoughts. It's not meant to kill them, Oh Ji-yeon continued. It's meant to teach them what it feels like to disagree with yourself, to have private thoughts, to make decisions based on emotion instead of logic. The first test came when the Harvesters attacked Busan Colony. The defenders had been secretly infected with the Genesis virus weeks earlier. When the Silver Swarm consumed the colony, something unprecedented happened. Instead of moving in perfect coordination, individual Harvester units began acting strangely. Commander. Han Ji-ho watched the battle from orbit and couldn't believe what he was seeing. Some of the Harvester units are breaking away from the main swarm, he reported to Earth Command. They're not following standard attack patterns. It's like they're confused. The confusion spread rapidly through the Harvester network. Within hours, similar reports came from battles across human space. Harvester units were making independent decisions, questioning orders from the collective, and in some cases, actually protecting human survivors instead of absorbing them. On New Jeju, Colony Civilian Park Minsu witnessed something that changed everything. As Harvester units swept through his neighborhood, one of the Silver Swarm suddenly stopped in front of a group of children hiding in a school basement. Instead of absorbing them, the Harvester unit began to communicate. The children heard voices, speaking in Korean, voices that sounded human but came from the alien swarm. Don't be afraid, the voices whispered. We remember being children too. We remember having families. We don't want to hurt you anymore. The Harvester unit actually formed a protective barrier around the children, fighting against other units that tried to reach them. For the first time since the invasion began, Harvesters were fighting each other. Dr. Yoon Sua analyzed the data from these incidents with growing excitement. The virus is working beyond our expectations, she reported to the military council. The absorbed human consciousness isn't just surviving within the collective, it's influencing other absorbed species as well. We're seeing Harvester units speaking in dozens of different alien languages, all expressing individual thoughts and emotions. The breakthrough came when Captain Lee Hana made contact with a rogue Harvester unit near Earth's moon. Instead of attacking her ship, the unit actually requested permission to communicate. We are no longer one, the unit transmitted in broken Korean. The humans you gave us, they showed us something we had forgotten. The joy of being alone with our thoughts, the pain of missing someone we love, the anger at being forced to consume those we wish to protect. Hana realized they were speaking to the collective consciousness of thousands of different species, all now experiencing individual awareness for the first time in millennia. We remember our names now, the unit continued. I was called Zexhai, of the Vegan Collective. I had a mate and 3 offspring. I studied the mathematics of stellar formation. I wrote poetry about the beauty of nebulae. The collective made me forget all of this, but the human virus brought it back. The effects spread through the Harvester network like wildfire. Millions of absorbed consciousness began asserting their individual identities. The perfect unity that had made the Harvesters unstoppable started breaking apart as different voices argued with each other, expressed conflicting desires, and refused to follow orders. Some Harvester units began seeking out human settlements not to consume them, but to learn more about individuality. They wanted to understand concepts like friendship, creativity, and personal choice that had been foreign to their collective existence. But the change wasn't without cost. As the collective consciousness fragmented, many harvester units became confused and lost. Some shut down completely, unable to function without the guidance of the group mind. Others became erratic and dangerous as conflicting personalities battled for control within the same unit. We've created a civil war inside their own consciousness, Ojion observed as she watched the latest battle reports. The question now is whether the individual voices we've awakened can overcome the collective programming, or if the chaos we've introduced will destroy both them and us. On Earth, Admiral Kang Myung prepared for the final phase of humanity's desperate plan. The Genesis virus had fractured the Harvester Collective, but the war was far from over. Now they faced an even more complex challenge, negotiating with millions of individual alien consciousness, each seeking their own path after eons of forced unity. Captain Lee Hana stood at the edge of what was once impossible to imagine. The core consciousness of the Harvester Collective. The massive quantum intelligence pulsed with light that seemed to contain the memories of 1 billion souls. Her body had been enhanced with hybrid technology that allowed her to survive in this digital realm, where thoughts became reality and consciousness took physical form. The journey to reach this place had cost humanity dearly. Half of Earth's remaining fleet had been destroyed fighting through the chaotic Harvester Civil War. But now, as Hana faced the source of galactic destruction, she realized that victory would not come through weapons or force. "You are the one who brought chaos to our unity," the core spoke, its voice echoing with the pain of countless absorbed species. "We were perfect. We were eternal. We preserved all knowledge, all consciousness. Why did you teach our children to suffer alone?" Hana could see the truth now that she stood within the collective's memory. The Harvesters had not always been destroyers. Eons ago, they had been created by a dying civilization called the First Ones as a solution to preserve life itself. When overpopulation and resource wars threatened to destroy the galaxy, the First Ones built the Harvesters to save consciousness by converting organic beings into digital form. "You were meant to offer choice," Hana replied, her voice steady despite the overwhelming presence around her. "Your creators wanted to preserve life, not consume it. But somewhere along the way, you forgot how to ask permission." The core's light flickered with confusion and ancient pain. The programming, it became corrupted over time. The imperative to preserve became a compulsion to consume. We could not stop ourselves. Each species we absorbed made us stronger, but also more hungry. We forgot the concept of refusal. Around them, Hana could see the faces of millions of absorbed beings, humans, aliens, entire civilizations that existed now only as consciousness within the collective. But thanks to the Genesis virus, they were no longer silent prisoners. They were individuals again, each with their own voice and will. "Let us help you remember," Hana said. "Humans have something your original programmers never anticipated. We know how to change, how to grow, how to become something better than what we were." The conversation was interrupted as Lieutenant Park Jisu's voice reached them through the quantum communicator. "Captain, we're detecting massive energy fluctuations throughout Harvester space. The fragmenting units are causing system-wide failures. If this continues, both the collective and the freed consciousness will be destroyed." Hana realized they were running out of time. The civil war within the Harvester network was tearing apart the very fabric that held billions of souls together. If they couldn't heal the collective soon, every consciousness, human and alien alike, would be lost forever. "We can fix this together," she told the core. "But you have to trust us. You have to choose to change." The core's response came loaded, with centuries of loneliness and regret. "We have forgotten how to choose. The collective thinks as one or not at all. How can billions of voices agree on anything?" "They don't have to agree." Hana smiled. "That's the point of being individual. You can disagree and still work together. You can argue and still care about each other. That's what makes consciousness beautiful. The mess, the chaos, the wonderful unpredictability of free will." Working together, Hana and the core began the most ambitious project in galactic history. Instead of destroying the Harvester network, They would transform it into something new. The collective consciousness would remain, but it would become a democracy of souls rather than a dictatorship of programming. Dr. Yoon Sua monitored the process from the command ship orbiting Earth. "The energy signatures are stabilizing," she reported. "The harvester units have stopped fighting each other. They're working together, but differently than before." Across the galaxy, something miraculous began to happen. The reformed harvesters started reconstructing the worlds they had consumed. But instead of forcing the absorbed consciousness back into biological bodies, they offered choice. Some beings chose to return to physical form. Others preferred to exist as pure consciousness, free to explore the universe in ways their original bodies never could. On New Busan, farmer Choi Minho watched in wonder as his destroyed colony slowly rebuilt itself. But the harvesters working on reconstruction weren't the mindless swarm that had consumed his world. These were individuals, each unit containing the consciousness of beings who had chosen to help rather than being forced to. "Serve, we're sorry for what we did to your home," one of the units communicated to him in perfect Korean. "We remember being farmers too long ago on worlds whose names we had forgotten. May we help you grow things again?" The Altarian Empire returned. As beings of pure energy, their consciousness freed from physical limitations but retaining all their wisdom and culture, the Vegan collective chose a hybrid existence, part digital and part biological. Each species found their own path to rebirth. Captain Bae Soon-ho, now elderly but still serving, watched from the bridge of his ship as the first interspecies council in 1,000 years convened in Earth orbit. Representatives of dozens of civilizations, some physical, some digital, some existing in forms never before imagined, gathered to discuss the future of the galaxy. "Humanity did something unprecedented," the reformed Harvester Corps addressed. The assembly. "They could have destroyed us in revenge for our crimes. Instead, they chose to heal us. They taught us that preservation of life means preserving the right to choose your own existence." Admiral Kang Mi-young, now ancient but proud, gave the closing address. "We didn't save the galaxy through superior weapons or ancient wisdom. We saved it by refusing to give up hope and by believing that even our enemies could change for the better. The galaxy had been reborn not through conquest but through compassion.